Okay, so I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get to this video, but it is finally here about how I do my lines so smooth. It is something I think a few people have actually asked me on Instagram and Twitter, as well as here on YouTube. So, one of my things is today, I'm just going to mark off where the top of this page is so that I don't get out of frame for you guys, which is the bottom of the page. I think, yeah, okay. So I'm going to really quickly do some little sketches, and what I'm going to do is go through all of the different tools that I use, including just using a everyday paintbrush to paint lines, and I'm going to go through my tips and tricks on how I do straight lines or smooth lines. I don't know everything, so don't quote me on any of it, but I try to do the best that I can. With that said, I'm going to go through and we're going to start with just a normal pen and we'll work up to paintbrush. I'm just going to go through the different ones that are similar to a paintbrush and just go up from there. So my favorite, just a normal ballpoint pen. When I draw, I usually try, so I've spent years, I always wanted to be able to draw without using a pencil. It was always just something for some reason as a kid that really bugged me and I wanted to do. And so I set out that for years I just drew with a pen until I could get good enough that I would get my ideas down with a pen instead of using a pencil. I still use a pencil for more intricate work that I want to make sure I get perfect, but my normal sketchbook I usually use an actual pen to draw with. To do fluid strokes, I just like moving more of my hand, not so much my wrist. I know that a lot of people say you should flick like your wrist to be able to do that. I just move my hand back and forth. It's honestly, I feel like I have a lot more control that way, and I like drawing that way. It makes me feel like I have a lot more power with it too, which is why I like drawing like that. And so another thing with doing smooth lines, if you're trying to do it, is sometimes just keeping a sketchbook that you draw only in pen, or only try drawing in pen for a bit. I feel like it helps hone a lot of what you're doing, because it makes sure that when you're doing lines, you get very good at what you want and what you don't want. And so you get to a point where you kind of know what you're doing and what you want to be doing with it. And I'm not saying, only draw with pen for every single work of art you do. I just find it fun to kind of challenge yourself to try and do that, because it changes what you're doing, what you're wanting to do with it. And it also gives you permission to screw up, which I feel like a lot of times in art you have to learn to do, is you have to give yourself permission that every once in a while something's not going to turn out looking really good. That every once in a while it's not always going to be a perfect masterpiece. And then a lot of times you're going to have to learn to be okay with that. And I think that's kind of a really big step too for... There's the actual sounds outside my window. I just think it helps really hone your senses, and I'm spending way too much time just on this one sketch. But you kind of get the idea here. That is a very ugly woodland dwarf. Again, see, giving yourself permission to screw up and fail, and that it's not the end of the world, and that it's not, that's not something you necessarily have to always be worried about of being perfect. Just accepting that you can, kind of do different things. So with that, I'm kind of just flicking my hand up and down to accomplish getting these strokes that I like getting. So that's the pen. The next one we're gonna do is this is I believe a Uniball, Uniball Echo pen. This is one of my favorite pens to draw with. If you ever want a good pen to do watercolor with, you can draw with this and then put watercolor over it and it will not bleed, which is one of the reasons I love buying these, and I will continue to buy them probably until the day I die, because they are some of my favorite ones to create with. They have a really great fluid and motion to them. If you see that right there going on, it's because this pen is old. I actually need to buy a new set of these pens for myself to be able to have new pens. And the other thing I would say too is with doing different things like that is just try changing up your style. I always try and study, when I see some art I really like, I try and study a style, which is probably why anyone watching this, if you like my work, which I feel honored, If you like my work, study it. That's what I do with all of my favorite artists. That's what I do with all of the people I really love, is I try and study their work so that I can take some of what they have, not steal their work, but take different ways they move their wrists, different ways they draw with, to really accentuate my own work and find my style, because I'm still kind of trying to find my style. I don't really know if, I mean, people say I have a style, but I think as an artist sometimes you can't see it as well as other people can. So that is the Uniball pen that you can do watercolor with. So the next one I have is going to be a dollar store pen that a great friend of mine, Gracie, who's another artist who is incredible. I'll link to her Instagram below. She bought some for me from the dollar store in the US. We have these there that come in a pack of, I believe, 3 or 4. It might only be 2. It might be 2, sorry. But it's a 7mm R2 roller ball, and this one is really fun. It doesn't work as well with watercolor. This would have to go down after you watercolor. But it's very inky, and I think that's a really fun part of this, is that it has a very inky look to it. It has that really exemplified look of something that is almost like using an ink pen, and you can see it bleeds a little bit, so depending on what type of paper you use, you're going to have more ink depending on that. Another thing I would say is sometimes it's not always good to get rid of all of your lines. I actually think that a sketchy look, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to go after, what you're trying to do, but a lot of times the best artists actually use a sketch or the lines to accentuate. It's not always bad to get rid of lines, which I think is another thing is letting go of the idea that only one way is capable of doing art, which I've struggled with. Is I used to think, certain ways are the only way to do art. And what's funny is art is really cool because you can change. You can change what you believe about doing art, and you can change your philosophy on how it should be done. And that's really the funnest part about it, is that there isn't really any specific way to do it. Okay, so that is the Uniball. That was kind of more of a tangent going on there with it. But there's the Uniball pen. We're going to fill up this page really fast. One of my favorites that I got through a local store is called the Uli pens, and they are actually they're like a calligraphy type pen. And let me see really quick here. You know what? I'm actually not going to use this one today. I'll do this in a separate video. I don't want to put in the ink. It's actually a little bit costly for this one. So I'm going to put this one aside for the moment. The next one I'll do though is I would normally do a rough sketch in pencil before using this. So this is in my mermaid series for Mermaid. I use a lot of this brush pen. I would recommend this highly for anyone who wants to get good at doing very fluid lines. So I would normally draw with pencil, but what I'm going to do here is I'll do a quick drawing of just like a normal face. And what I do is with drawing with like something like this, to get very fluid and very precise lines, it's really about choosing where you want to place it, and about deciding what you do and don't want to have on the page, which sounds very strange, but you get to a point where you really have to decide how you want a page to be set up and how you want different things to work. I personally have started to get where I like more of a sketchy line work. I believe it lets through a lot of the creativity that the artist has, so I actually don't get rid of as many lines as I used to do. But again, it's one of those things, if you want really perfect lines and you're really dead set on getting really good at just very, very fluid lines, kind of what I would assume are on this video for, on this bonus video for, I would just say that it's a lot about just learning what you want to do with a sketch, and learning what really is comfortable for you, because a lot of what I do that makes my sketches work is more of the fact of I choose, what I want to do or how I want to do it, and I really decide as I'm working on usually a sketch. If I've drawn it out before, I already have the lines, but like this, sometimes just practicing with just doing a lot of lines and doing a lot of work that just it requires you to do very fluid lines. This scene right there, that was kind of a screw up line right there. And that's okay to screw up. I think that's the biggest thing, is just learning that it's okay to not do perfect. It's okay to get over doing these things. And I know that, you know, sometimes, and especially as an artist, you hold a really high regard for what you should be doing. But sometimes you just have to let that go. To get better, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Like anything that you learn and create with, it's not about getting there in 2 minutes. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some love. And I think that's really the funnest part about it, is just accepting that it's not really a one-time, one-shot kind of deal. It's more about just learning to have really a lot of fun with it and just play around. So that is the brush right there. And again, I did more of a sketchiness to show this, but it's really just, for me, I just am doing very small, concise strokes. Another thing is, too, people who hold their hand above it, if you hold your hand above the paper, you're going to have a lot more squibbles going on. I would try to keep your hand on the paper, even if you need some other type of paper on top, if you're using pencil, to make sure you don't smudge something else. It just makes it easier to where you have a lot of control. It keeps a lot of your motion going one directional, instead of where if your hand's in the air, you can screw up, or your arm can shift, or, you know, any number of things can happen. So I would say definitely trying to keep your hand on the paper will definitely help out. Okay, and last we're going to do is, I have some watercolor over here. I'm not going to use my Pentel water brushes that already have water in it. To get a really good dark line, I use a normal brush with my watercolors. I have some watercolors off to the side that I'll be picking up, but I try and get it very dark. And to get a really dark black, and to keep a very consistent dark black for painting, you really want to make sure it's actually less watery than you need. If you have too much water in it, it's going to be less of what you are trying to accomplish. So for me, I just really try to do, with painting especially, it is very important to, how do I want to say this? It's almost like playing. I think a lot of doing anything like this is a lot of just playing around and enjoying and really learning how you want to draw and paint. Because if you're wanting to do straight lines, then just practice going over painting or over pencil work and just doing straight lines and pulling across and doing a through stroke. I'd say that's a really big part for me, is I try and make sure that my stroke, like right there, I screwed up right there because I stopped halfway through a stroke. I would have just done it straight. And it's okay to do that. Like, again, I fixed it. Like, no one's gonna know unless I told you that. And that's the thing is, too, is I feel like a lot of times doing art, you think, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna notice. A lot of times, you're the only one who notices certain details about it. And like that, too, right there, I'm not trying to do perfect lines to do those, the whisker marks for the wolf right there. Because for the whisker marks, I don't really want them to be perfect. I'm also letting it get a little watery. I brought over my my crappier watercolor set. I mean, not crappier as in like product, but just crappier, and it's kind of broken up from wear and tear. So it's a little bit less dark than I want. Oh, we're gonna change that eye. So, I mean, that's really the big thing that I think to take away, is just try a lot. Try a lot of different things. Try different pens, brushes, markers. They don't, like I said, there's a lot of great stuff you can get from the dollar store, like this one right here. They have other really good pens to buy. You don't have to spend a ton of money to get really good products to use in your art. But I would say just try it. Just do different things. Try out different styles. See what you enjoy. And just have a lot of fun with it. Because the point of art is to enjoy. As much as a lot of it is, you know, oh, I gotta get better, I have to do this. Learn to enjoy it and to really have fun with it, because once you start having fun with it and just playing around, just like this, like even doing a sketch page of just trying to doodle different things and see which ones you really enjoy doing lines with. Find what works best. That's how I have these different ones that I really enjoy, that I hope maybe one of them might help you, or maybe they won't, and something you already have will work out better. But just try different things, see what you enjoy. And with that said, guys, this is a very long video, so I'm going to put this to an end right now. I hope something in this glib glob can help you out. If you enjoyed, make sure to like below, comment if you have one of these as your favorite, and make sure to subscribe. You know, if you want to help support weekly art inspirations, if you enjoyed this video, I'm planning on doing a lot more this year to have kind of just bonus videos that are showing different techniques, different ideas, kind of my personal philosophy on art, or different things like that that just, I don't know, can maybe help me get a little bit closer to you guys, or you guys to understand something of art that you've wanted to learn or know. So with that said, stay inspired, stay amazing. Here's a few more videos. Have a wonderful day, guys. Keep doing incredible lines.